When I look back now, it's just so, I just can't believe that I did those things, said those hurtful things to my wife.
We found out that I was pregnant after we'd been dating about 1.5 years. So we got married very quickly, within 2 weeks of when we found out that I was pregnant, because that would be so much easier to hide.
I never knew how to have a marriage, how to love, how to treat my wife.
The foundation of our marriage was, there wasn't one. We were building our house on the sand completely.
I had a problem with thinking that something was better. There was more out there. There was prettier girls. There was better wives, better families. And, I just never knew what I had.
About six years into our marriage, I found out that he had been having an affair the first 3 years of our marriage.
I was doing things, leading a separate life from anything that she knew about.
I was really struggling with not really wanting to live much anymore. I loved my baby, I loved my baby and I loved my husband, but I just didn't have it within myself to keep going.
The devil was just really, he had a hold of my heart.
Something that happened at that time was that we had just visited James River. It
was good, and we made friends, and I was really trying to be the good husband, the only husband that I knew to be.
I gave my life over to the Lord, and God just gave me a wonderful strength it was almost immediate. At the time, I was really, truly wanting to believe that he truly had accepted Christ into his heart, but as time went on, I found out that he was more in the mode of, I'm sorry I've been caught, and what can I do to keep this together?
And it got to the point where I got so angry going to church, hearing the word, and seeing all of these things that were godly, that were right.
He was struggling with the convictions and the life that I was leading. He was still wanting to do some of his things, and he began resenting how often I went to church, and he wanted to go less and less.
Betty, it was great for her, but with me it was very tormenting.
He would speak very cruelly to me, and he became very dissatisfied with me.
I loved her. Deep down inside, I loved her, but I didn't like her. I didn't like the fact that she would choose church over me.
Life was getting harder than it was when I found out about the affair, because of his things he would say to me, the way he would treat me and the kids.
It got to where I didn't like the way she couldn't dress sexy enough for me. She couldn't keep the house clean enough for me. She couldn't, there was just nothing, she couldn't do anything right to please me. It got to the point where I was just completely dissatisfied with everything.
All I could do was just try to get away, even if I just pretend like I go to the bathroom and just shut the door and just fall on my knees and start crying out to the Lord.
Right after Christmas, 2 years ago, it was like the day after Christmas, we were in a big, heated fight.
I began to feel a little afraid, because I could even tell by the look in his face that things were more severe than they had been before.
And she felt like she should leave. And I, as a control freak, I was like, well, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? Who are you gonna stay with?
He took a knife and he went out into the garage and slashed my back tires so that he thought I couldn't leave. But we went ahead and got in the car and left.
I just figured she'd be back a couple hours. A couple of days later, she still wasn't back, and I didn't have any idea where she was at.
He would always try to talk to me, but I wouldn't talk to him, because as I prayed and as I continued to pray, I felt like God was telling me I'm not done with him.
And she issued me a restraining order.
And that's where the big turnaround started happening.
I prayed God, I've lost everything. And it wasn't a voice like I heard God say something like in a big loud voice. But in my heart, in my mind, and while I was praying, I felt like the Lord told me, Steve, I want all of you or I want none of you.
We were at church and Steve went to the altar. But I mean, he kept coming to church and we were sitting in separate places, but I saw him, go to the altar.
I knew that I had played with God for years. And I knew that I had played this Christian for years. And it got to the point where I felt like he said, this is it.
Because they're like, Mom, Dad went to the altar and he got baptized, can he come back home now?
I started going to church just every time the door was open.
I felt like God was telling me I'm not done with him.
The only time I could talk to her was on Saturday or see her because I couldn't come within 100 yards of her.
And that's what we chose to do. We waited and we stayed away for several months.
Barry and Bruce had come to me. I had confided in them about our separation, and they were praying with me and encouraging me.
We started going to Marriages by Design after we got back together. But it was such a huge, refreshing, it was just like a tall drink of water.
I mean, we just jumped in, and God just turned our hearts around.
It reinforced the marriage values.
I never knew how to love Betty, other than just what I had learned from my relationship with the Lord. But in the Marriages by Design, just really opened that up.
It's been 2 years now, and I personally think I probably have one of the best marriages that there is. My husband's awesome.
It touched us so much that we've done the Marriages by Design, the 40-day study. We've done that several times.
We had to rebuild a foundation that we never had, and I think Marriages by Design helps you to do that.
Since then, and since we've completed the 40-day study and we've moved on to another church now, we still implement those things in our lives every day. It's a working project.
I would never want anyone to lose faith or to lose sight or give up, because if God can heal a marriage that was as bad as ours, I know he can heal any marriage.
So God has been good, very good to us.